My career in wanting to make a difference in women's athletics actually started when I was 12.
Hmm.
I grew up in Opelousas, Louisiana, Cajun country all the way. And Barbara Mandrell's song that she was country before it was cool to be country. Well, I was a tomboy before it was cool for women to be in sports. And I tried out for Little League Baseball. I was excited. I put my pad on my bat, and man at City Park wouldn't let me play. And he offered to let me be a manager. He offered to let me be a scorekeeper, a cheerleader, but he wouldn't let me play. And Adam, I knew I was as good as little boys on the field. And I thought that's not fair. And at that time, I knew I wanted to be in a business that helped women learn to compete.
Hmm.
One of Pat's definite dozen, and we're going to talk about that, which I absolutely loved, was left foot, right foot, breathe. And sometimes, as we got to these hurdles, I had to say left foot, right foot, breathe. We're going to get through them. The other one, a definite dozen, is that you have got to work hard. I'm going to try to outwork you and be the one that's there. And we would go places and people would say, I can't believe y'all are averaging 16,000 people at a women's basketball game. And I said, you don't know how many chicken dinners Pat and I have spoke at during to promote what we're doing. Is she was willing to do that. You have some coaches that think the only thing they're supposed to do is be on the basketball court. But Pat understood the big picture. I understood the big picture. And we were doing more than just playing basketball. Pat and I's partnership went back to, we were both recruiting the same girl in Charleston at the time, and she came in town to recruit her. We went to lunch, and she said, Joan, the AD's job at Tennessee is coming open. Would you consider applying? She actually recruited me to go back to Tennessee. So that's really where our partnership in trying to build an athletic program at Tennessee. And she helped me so much, not only in doing what she did in basketball, but she was such a good person with all the other sports. She took the time to meet with other coaches. She took the time, many of our fans on the podcast will remember Monica Abbott, one of the best pitchers ever in softball. Well, I can remember Pat meeting with Monica, convincing her that she needed to come and help us start a softball team. So Pat was instrumental in that partnership in so many ways.
When did, in the work with Pat, when did that definite dozen come about? When was that articulated?
Probably about midway. Sally Jenkins, who's a wonderful sports columnist and a good friend of ours, was wanting to write a book about Pat. And we had been preaching those things, but she said, let's sit down and write what is your philosophy and why. And that's how we developed. And Pat and Sally worked really hard on that definite dozen. And it's been a cornerstone. It's so well done. And, my goal is that Pat's definite dozen and John Wooden's pyramid are the Bible of people in sports. Mm-hmm. That these are the things that good coaches, good athletic directors, great athletes need to know and do. When Pat was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, she walked into my office and she looked me straight in the eye and she said, Joan, I've just been diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's strand, early stages. And then I said, well, we're going to say you have dementia because that seems to be more acceptable, and we're going to go and battle this. And she looked at me again and she said, no, we're going to say exactly what I have. I have dementia, Alzheimer's strand, early stages. Mm-hmm. And then she said something that's been really significant in my life to follow her death was, I want to form a foundation. And I want this foundation to focus on finding a cure for Alzheimer's and helping with the caregivers. Mm. And that's what the foundation has continued to do over the last 5 years. You talked about Title IX, being the 50 years of Title IX and talking about leadership in women's sports. I think about, is Title IX working? That was 50 years ago. Is it really working? And I don't, even though I majored in math at LSU, I don't have to do a statistical report and figure out all the stats. All I have to do is get on an airplane. If I get on an airplane and I sit next to a couple and I say, I'm Joan Cronan, I'm athletic director emeritus at University of Tennessee. And if they smile, the next thing out of their mouth are, I have a daughter or I have a granddaughter who, and they go on to describe the athletic ability of their daughter or granddaughter. When moms and dads want the same opportunities for their daughters and their granddaughters as they do for their sons and grandsons, Title IX is working.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.